Good evening. So I recently finished reading Whistle by Linwood, Barclay. This is a supernatural horror story, and it overall follows two different main characters whose plot lines are taking place what seems like actually a couple years apart. So first and foremost, like the mainer, I guess, of the two characters is a children's book author called Annie. So Annie's been having a really, really bad time. Her most recent book, which is a series that features like a cartoon penguin that's really popular with kids, was kind of indirectly responsible for causing the death of a child. And even though it wasn't like strictly speaking her fault, Annie's a good person, and this for obvious reasons is really weighing her down. And just as she was finally starting to find her way out of the depression, her husband gets killed by a hit and run. So now she's left with dealing with both the grief of that additional loss and the fact that she has a young son who she's not entirely sure she's equipped to raise on her own. And then on top of that, she's not sure she can continue working on her series anymore. Like, she's not sure if she wants to abandon the penguin character altogether, or maybe create a new character. Either way, like, she's having a really hard time creating anything, and is still owes her publisher like one more book in the deal that she currently has with them. So in order to help deal with this issue, her publisher ends up renting her a house in the countryside, and she takes her son there to live for a while, like to kind of recuperate, take a break from the city and just everything that has been going on in her life, and hopefully to re-find, I guess, the ability to draw. But like, even though it seems like exactly the kind of getaway she needs, things don't seem quite right at the house where she is. Like, there were unusual circumstances around the previous renters, like, who left in rather a big hurry, and her son discovers this old set of toy trains, and as he begins to like play with it, put it out, and so on, like, Annie starts to hear like unusual things sometimes in the middle of the night. For instance, like, she thought she heard a train go by, but there aren't any active tracks in the area anymore. Like, it's been a long time since there were any trains to hear. So things like that, like unsettling things that start making her question, like, well, partly her own sanity at first, and then starting to look into like what the heck happened around the house and its previous tenants. So the secondary plot line is a policeman in a small town. Like, so a toy train shop just recently opened in the town. And it's weird because no one can remember when it opened, like where it came from. It seems both like it's been there forever, but also like it's very new. And he's not sure how he feels about it. Like, it seems to be doing a really brisk business, but he noticed that ever since it started, weird stuff has been happening, and there were two men in the town disappeared it sounds like pretty close to when the shop opened, and eventually like one of them, like the dead body, is discovered, and it's a really strange dead body because someone has removed all its bones. So the policeman starts to investigate like these really weird circumstances, and honestly, kudos to him for being able to detect that there were less than natural, I guess, things going on, like something supernatural that he's not sure he believes in, but he's actually has a pretty open mind about it, and starts to look into the matter. Like, he follows his suspicions. So his line actually takes place before the author's line, and you do eventually get to see how they overlap. So let's see, something I liked. I've actually been looking for something creepier to read for quite a few weeks now, and discarded like several books where I started a few chapters and either I didn't like the writing style, or it wasn't at all scary, or like whatever. So this is of a pleasant find with the kind of scary story that I tend to enjoy, like where it kind of, treads that line between what is normal and what is supernatural and has more of a psychological thing going on. So yeah, I think it was definitely an interesting read. It's kind of ironic because the author character was reading Stephen King's Needful Things, and I think you can definitely see some similarities between the backbone concepts, I guess. So let's see. Something I did not like. I will say the story was more grisly than I was anticipating, like a lot more people died than I was expecting for this kind of story, and that I definitely could have done without. On the bright side, it does have what I would consider technically a fairly okay ending.